The house at the edge of the forest. I didn't choose the house chose me. That's how the realtor described it, anyway. It's perfect for someone like you, she said with a too-wide smile, handing over the keys. Quiet, lots of space, and, best of all, no neighbors for miles. It sounded perfect at the time. After everything I'd been through, the divorce, losing my job, and the slow disintegration of every friendship I'd spent years building, I needed a fresh start. A quiet life in a secluded, old house seemed like the answer. The house stood at the edge of a sprawling forest, its tall trees like sentinels guarding some long-forgotten secret. The building itself was old, with creaky floorboards, drafty windows, and the kind of charm you can only find in places built long before electricity became a household staple. From the moment I stepped inside, I felt an odd pull toward it. It wasn't a cozy feeling, exactly. More like an uneasy sense of familiarity, as if the house had been waiting for me. The first few weeks were uneventful. I spent my days unpacking, cleaning, and trying to shake off the lingering exhaustion of my old life. The forest became my refuge. I'd take long walks along the winding trails, breathing in the crisp air and listening to the rustle of leaves. But as the days grew shorter and the nights colder, I began to notice things. At first, it was small, barely worth mentioning. Shadows seemed to linger just a little too long in the corners of rooms. The wind through the forest sometimes sounded less like wind and more like whispers. And then there was the smell. It came suddenly one night, a faint, sickly sweet odor that wafted through the house. I searched everywhere for the source, assuming it was a dead animal or some rotting food I'd overlooked. But no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't find anything. The smell would come and go, always strongest in the basement. I avoided the basement as much as I could. It wasn't just the smell. There was something about the place that set my teeth on edge. The ceiling was low, the walls lined with crumbling stone, and the air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on you. One afternoon, I finally worked up the courage to clean it out. Armed with a flashlight and a box of garbage bags, I descended the creaky stairs. The space was cluttered with decades worth of junk, rusty tools, broken furniture, and boxes filled with moldy books. As I sifted through the mess, my flashlight beam caught something carved into the wall. It was a symbol, etched deep into the stone. A circle, surrounded by jagged lines, with an eye in the center. I ran my fingers over it, the grooves rough and deep. It didn't look like something a former owner would have carved. It felt older. Something about it made my skin crawl. That night, the dream started. I was walking through the forest, the trees towering above me like black spires against a starless sky. The ground was soft beneath my feet, almost like walking on a sponge. In the distance, I saw a light. It flickered like a flame, drawing me closer. When I reached it, I realized it wasn't a flame at all. It was an eye. A massive, glowing eye suspended in the darkness, staring down at me. And then I woke up, drenched in sweat, my heart racing. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind, felt like someone, was just out of sight. The smell grew stronger, more pungent, until it became unbearable. I started sleeping with all the windows open, the freezing night air preferable to the stench that now seemed to permeate every corner of the house. And then, one night, I heard the footsteps. They started in the forest, faint and distant, like someone walking through the underbrush. At first, I thought it was an animal, a deer, maybe, or a raccoon. But as the minutes passed, the sound grew louder, closer. The footsteps moved through the forest and stopped just outside the house. I held my breath, straining to hear. And then, slowly, deliberately, they began climbing the porch steps. I don't remember grabbing the baseball bat. I don't remember unlocking the front door. But the next thing I knew, I was standing on the porch, the bat gripped tightly in my hands, staring out into the darkness. The forest was silent, the trees swaying gently in the breeze. There was no sign of anyone or anything that could have made the sound. But as I turned to go back inside, I saw it. In the distance, deep within the forest, a faint light flickered. The next morning, I packed my bags. I didn't care about the money I'd spent on the house, or the work I'd put into making it livable. Whatever was happening here, I wanted no part of it. But as I loaded the last of my things into the car, I realized I couldn't find my keys. I searched everywhere. My pockets, the kitchen counters, the drawers, but they were gone. It was as if the house didn't want me to leave. That night, the dreams returned, more vivid than before. This time, the forest was alive. The trees twisted and writhed, their branches reaching toward me like skeletal hands. The ground pulsed beneath my feet, and the air was thick with the sickly sweet smell I'd come to dread. The light was there again, brighter now, its glow illuminating the strange symbol I'd seen in the basement. And then I heard it, a voice, low and guttural, speaking words I couldn't understand. But one thing was clear. It was calling my name. When I woke up, the house was silent. Too silent. I stepped out of bed, my feet sinking into something wet. The floor was covered in a thin layer of dark, viscous liquid that smelled faintly metallic. I followed the trail down the hallway, through the living room, and to the basement door. It was open. I don't know why I went down there. Maybe I thought I'd find answers. Maybe I was too scared to leave and too curious to ignore it. The basement was darker than usual, the single bulb flickering weakly. The smell was overpowering now, so thick it made my eyes water. And in the corner, where the strange symbol was carved into the wall, the liquid pooled, seeping into the grooves like veins feeding a heart. The symbol glowed faintly, the light pulsating in time with my heartbeat. And then, from the shadows, something moved. I don't remember much after that. Just flashes, a figure, impossibly tall and thin, its face a featureless void. The sound of whispers, louder now, filling my head until I thought I'd go mad. And then darkness. When I woke up, I was lying in the forest, the house nowhere in sight. My car was gone. My belongings were gone. All that remained was the faint smell of decay and the memory of that glowing symbol burned into my mind. I don't know how I got out, but sometimes, in the dead of night, I still hear the footsteps, and I know the house is waiting for me to come back.